Hey everyone, and welcome back to Moana Waterpark, our tropical paradise in Planet Coaster 2. Today we're diving into something fun, vibrant, and a little bit splashy. We're building a Polynesian-themed splash pad, complete with flipping buckets, water jets, and a fully themed playground for the kids. Enough talk, let's get into it. Now before we start, this build didn't go exactly as I wanted to. Originally, I wanted to use the flume slides as part of the playground to make it look like kids could climb up and ride them, make it more interactive. But unfortunately, that didn't work. I couldn't figure out how to remove the fences and supports and figured out further on that it's just not possible. And it turned into a bit of a headache. So the first thing we're doing is we're actually building the splash pad base. I head into Custom Pools tab and carve out this big circular water feature. The circle shape isn't just aesthetic, it helps anchor the whole build. It gives me a solid, readable footprint to build a playground around and keeps the layout compact, but inviting. If you're building any kind of splash zone or plaza, circular layouts work great because they let guests interact from all sides, and they look good from overhead when they're planning your scenery. With the pool in place, we can start stacking all the fun stuff on top. Stairs, platforms, slides, props, triggers, all of it. Now it's time to bring this playground to life. So I start by grabbing pieces from the resort set. I also mix in a lot of art shapes this time and filling in with a lot of ropes. These match perfectly with our Polynesian aesthetic here in the Moana Waterpark. I'm also experimenting with the roof, mixing thatch and wooden boards, columns. The goal was to make something that looks handcrafted and rustic, but still playful and fun. Remember, when you build family-focused areas, especially for kids, think about what they see at eye level. Use oversized props, playful colors, strong silhouettes. Slides, buckets, ropes should pop. Save the subtlety for your fine dining builds. And as you can see here, I just basically built the top part where I want the bucket to be, but we will come back to that later in the video. This playground won't be functional, as I said, in terms of guests climbing it, but they'll run around the splash pad and interact with the props that we've created. And here I thought it would be fun to add like a little rope structure bridge that goes from platform A to B. You see this a lot of places in a lot of playgrounds, and I saw it too in Aquatica that I wore for a few months back, and I thought it would be kind of fun to add that into this playground splash pad structure. But let's talk about why a splash pad even belongs in a water park like this. First of all, splash pads are family gold. They're low maintenance, they're safe, and they work for all ages. No height requirements, no ride queues, it's just pure fun. And second, they're visually dynamic. From a design perspective, they're one of the best ways to add motion and energy to your parks. I have some reference pictures here. Take a look at this one from Adventure Island. The Shakalaka Shores is a great example. Colorful tipping buckets, rope nets, mini slides, and spraying water from all angles. Exactly the kind of feel I wanted for this build. There's also the Aquatica in Orlando, the walkabout waters. It's a layered jungle gym of fun, and it works not just because it's interactive, but because it's themed to match the environment. That's the magic I'm chasing here. Making the splash pad not just a filler, but an immersive moment. It should feel like it belongs in Moana Waterpark. Not just tossed into a corner, but anchored in a story and theme. Splash pads are always perfect filler attractions. They're compact, easy to build, and keep guests happy. Especially in Planet Coaster 2, pairing these builds with seating, food stalls, or locker areas nearby makes your park flow way more realistically. Now let's talk a little bit about why I placed the splash pad here specifically. This area is nestled right along the park's lazy river, which, fun fact, goes almost all the way around the Moana Waterpark. The river is kinda like the heartline of this park. So placing the splash pad here makes it a really natural hub for families to meet up, chill out, or just enjoy some downtime. I imagine this spot as the place where big families go like, hey, let's meet back here in an hour, the kids can splash and we'll grab some snacks. It even rhymes. I even added these small cabanas, little thatch roof tents scattered around the area, as you saw in one of my first videos. So families can hang out in the shade while still keeping an eye out on the kids. It gives the whole area a sense of belonging instead of feeling like an isolated build. Another tip here is when you're designing themed areas, especially in water parks or family zones, always think about guest behavior and natural gathering points. Splash pads are perfect anchors for that, and by putting them near high-traffic scenic routes like lazy rivers or food courts, you're creating a space that feels lived in and logical. And honestly, this area used to be kind of a dead zone. Empty terrain, no flow, no story, and now it's vibrant, family-first pocket that actually makes the park feel more complete. So jumping back into what I'm doing here, is I want to talk about some of the clever building tricks I used to bring this splash pad to life. First tip is if you want to create custom water slides, the aquatic pipe pieces are gold. Just scale them up slightly, tilt them into position, and boom, you've got yourself a fully custom tube slide. They're clean, smooth, and they really give off that molded plastic slide look, which fits perfectly for playgrounds like this. For the flat open slide, I kept it super simple. It's built entirely out of basic shapes, just colored and rotated to look like one of those white splash-throughs kids love to slide down. Don't overcomplicate your slides. It's not about functionality here, it's about selling the illusion. Make it look fun, safe, and exciting. Use color and shape to trick the eye, and you're good to go. I also added a little custom rope bridge across the structure, just for flair. It doesn't need to be walkable, it just needs to feel interactive and give that sense of kids exploring every level. Around the splash pad, I placed extra water features, little jets, bubbling fountains that really help fill out the environment. These small additions make the space feel more alive and also help disguise any visual gaps in the layout. Now for efficiency and to keep the whole build cohesive, I pretty much duplicated a lot of the railings, roof pieces, and decorative elements. Copying and rotating the same set pieces help everything feel like it belongs together, especially when you've got a circular layout like this, and it saves a ton of time. One small but important touch, I actually ended up recoloring the splash pad base halfway through. The original color just didn't vibe right. It felt too pale, too washed out. So I adjusted the tone to better match the warm tropical palette we've used throughout Moana Waterpark. The small tweak really helped tie everything together. Don't be afraid to repaint. Colors can look totally different depending on what you place next to them. Sometimes a quick hue change is all it takes to make an area feel intentional. Alright, so here we're building the first flip the bucket style effect. Though in this case it's more like a flip the pot water feature. What I'm doing first is I'm choosing the item I want to use. In this case a mythology style pottery prop that fits really nicely with our tropical fantasy theme. I go ahead and scale it down a little to match the size I want, then position it exactly where I want the tipping motion to happen. Once it's placed correctly, I simply attach the pot to the rotation device using the scenery grouping tool. Now it's time to animate it. I go into the trigger sequence, hit edit trigger, then add object and assign the rotational platform to the sequence. For the animation settings, I set the motion type to half oscillate slow reverse, which give us that classic slow tip and snapback motion, perfect for a flipping water pot. To sell the effect, I also add a small support, not for function, but for realism, and then start placing splash effects right inside the pot. And that's the result, a charming theme flipping pot with real water burst, timed and synced to feel dynamic and interactive in splash pads. Now for the big flip the bucket, we're doing almost the exact same process as before, but this time we're actually building the bucket ourselves from scratch since Planet Coaster 2 doesn't come with one natively. So here's what I did. First, I grabbed a wooden support plank, scaled it down really small and started positioning it to the shape of the bucket. I carefully adjusted the angle and placement to get that perfect circular alignment, which took a little bit of trial and error, just nudging, rotating and checking until it looked right. Then I duplicated those planks in a circular pattern to form the full bucket shape. Once that was done, I added grip handles and support beams around it, just to give the illusion that it's held up by some sort of mechanical tipping system. These little details really help sell the realism. From there is the same setup as before. I placed a rotational movement platform, attached the bucket structure as a scenery group, and added it into a trigger sequence just like with the smaller pot. Then came the fun part, layering the water effects. I used a mix of different elements, the waterfall for the main burst, large and small water spouts to simulate splashes and spray, a few extra bubble emitters to make the water look like it's surging from the bucket. And when it all comes together, you get this beautiful dramatic flip the bucket moment right in the middle of your splash pad. Now here's a little triggering trick I learned back in Planet Coaster 1, and it works great here too. Some water effects don't activate on loop automatically, or they don't behave consistently. So what I did is I linked the trigger sequence to a coaster. In this case, I used the Wayfinder coaster nearby. By tying the sequencer to the coaster's departure event, I can make the buckets flip at regular intervals. For example, every time the coaster dispatches, or every 30 seconds or so. This way your splash pad stays animated, timed, and feels like it's alive, even if the game doesn't allow for traditional looping triggers yet. And that's a wrap on our Polynesian-themed splash pad here in Moana Waterpark. From the custom slides, bubbling water jets, and flipping buckets to the vibrant color palette and tropical playground vibes, I am really happy with how this all turned out. This build was such a fun one to experiment with, especially figuring out how to animate the buckets and bring everything to life with creative trigger setups. It's proof that even if something isn't built into the game yet, there's always a way to get creative and make it work. As always, I hope you got some inspiration or building ideas from this, whether it's layer out planning, scenery grouping, or just playing with water effects in a unique way. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see added to Moana Waterpark next. Maybe a lazy river station, a themed restaurant, or more family attractions. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next Planet Coaster 2 video. I've got more tropical magic and chaos coming your way real soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!